Imagine waking up in the morning, stretching your arms, feeling the warmth of the person you love lying next to you. The room is quiet. The air smells like coffee from the kitchen. Everything feels normal, safe. You turn over and see her, your wife, your girlfriend, your partner, the person you built your life with. She's sleeping peacefully, her hair sprawled across the pillow, her face calm, her breathing steady. And in that moment, you think to yourself, I am lucky. You believe in the life you've created together. The memories, the laughter, the whispered, I love yous in the dark. You believe in her. Because why wouldn't you? She told you she loved you. She told you she was your soulmate. She told you that you were the only one. But she lied. And I didn't find out because she confessed. I didn't find out because she slipped up and left evidence lying around. No, it was one single moment. One tiny, insignificant moment that changed everything. A notification. A message. A clue so small but so powerful that it shattered my entire reality. At first, it didn't make sense. At first, I told myself there had to be an explanation. Because people like her, people who look at you with love in their eyes, who hold your hand when you're scared, who laugh at your worst jokes, don't do things like this. Right? I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. But then I found out who she was cheating with, and my blood turned to ice. My stomach twisted in a knot so tight, I thought I might be sick. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was something much, much worse. And the worst part? I never saw it coming. Her name was Sarah. She was everything I ever wanted, smart, beautiful, funny in a way that made everyone around her feel like they were in on some private joke. She had this way of making life feel lighter, like nothing could ever really go wrong as long as we were together. For years, she was my world. We were that couple, the one people envied, the one people looked at and said, wow, you two are perfect for each other. We traveled together, collecting memories in different cities. Lazy Sundays in bed, late-night drives with music turned up, inside jokes that only we understood. We built a life together, a home filled with laughter and warmth. From the outside, we were the definition of happiness. And I believed it. I believed every second of it. But now, looking back, I see it so clearly. The little cracks in the perfect picture. The late nights that became more frequent. The unexplained phone calls she would take in another room. The way she started dressing up more, even when she was just going to work. At first, I told myself it was nothing. I mean, people change, right? Maybe she just wanted to feel good about herself. Maybe work had gotten more demanding. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But then the phone. Sarah had never been glued to her phone before. She used to leave it lying around, sometimes even forgetting where she put it. She'd hand it to me without a second thought when I asked to check something. But suddenly, it was different. She always had it, always in her hand, always tilted away from me. She'd smile at the screen, her fingers moving quickly, but the second I walked into the room, lock, face down, away from me. And the excuses, oh, just a work thing. It's nothing, just a stupid group chat. Ugh, my phone is so annoying today. Every time it was something different. And then there were the disappearances. Sarah had always been independent, but now she was gone more than usual. Working late, extra meetings, last-minute plans. And when she did come home, she didn't look exhausted from work. She looked happy, energized, glowing. And I should have asked more questions. I should have pushed harder. But I didn't. I told myself I was imagining things. I ignored the red flags. Because the truth, the real truth, was something I wasn't ready to face. But deep down I knew. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. Sarah used to be an open book. She'd come home after work, kick off her shoes, and collapse onto the couch with a dramatic sigh, launching into a full rundown of her day. You won't believe what happened at the coffee shop today. Some guy tried to pay with Monopoly money, she'd laugh. Ugh, my boss was on another power trip. I swear he loves hearing himself talk. So, guess what? Remember that coworker I told you about? The one who always steals my yogurt? Caught him red-handed today. She shared everything, from the smallest inconveniences to the weirdest customer interactions. I never had to wonder what was going on in her life because she told me everything. Until she didn't. Until one day the story stopped. At first it was subtle. She started coming home quieter, less talkative. When I asked how her day was, she'd just shrug. Same old stuff. No details. No funny stories. Just vague, empty answers. And then it got worse. I'd catch her staring at her phone, smiling. Not the kind of smile you give when reading a dumb meme. No, this was different. This was the kind of smile she used to give me. But the second I walked in, lock. Face down. Smile up at me like nothing was wrong. Oh, just texting my sister. Ugh, my group chat is going crazy. Nothing important. Lie. After lie. After lie. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But then there were the phone calls. Late at night, after she thought I was asleep, I'd hear her whispering in the living room, laughing, her voice soft, playful, like she was flirting. I would roll over in bed, gripping the sheets, trying to convince myself I was imagining things, that it was innocent. But then came the moment that shattered every doubt I had left. Because one night I saw it, a moment so small, yet so undeniable that it made my stomach drop. She was sitting on the couch, her phone in her hands, completely lost in a conversation. She didn't even notice me watching her. And then she bit her lip, a small, nervous, excited bite. The kind of thing people do when they're talking to someone they're attracted to. The kind of thing she used to do with me. And at that moment, I knew I wasn't overthinking. I wasn't being paranoid. Something was very, very wrong. It was late. The kind of late where the world feels eerily still, where the only sound in the house is the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards. Sarah had just gone to take a shower, leaving her phone on the bed, something she never did anymore. For months, her phone had been practically glued to her hand. If she wasn't holding it, it was face down, locked, hidden away like it contained the launch codes for a nuclear strike. But tonight, she was careless. And that's when it happened. The screen lit up, a soft glow in the darkness. At first, I wasn't even looking at it. I was just lying there, staring at the ceiling, lost in my own thoughts. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A message. Can't wait to see you again, smirking face. My entire body froze. My stomach dropped. My breath caught in my throat. My heart hammering against my ribs, so hard I thought it might explode. I sat up slowly, staring at the screen like it was some kind of sick joke. But it wasn't. It was real. And it was right there in front of me. My hands started to shake. Who sent this? Why were they so excited to see her again? And more importantly, why the hell was she hiding it from me? A wave of nausea hit me as my mind spiraled into 1,000 different possibilities. Was this a misunderstanding? A stupid, harmless text? Or was this exactly what I had been afraid of all along? I turned my head toward the bathroom door. The sound of running water filled the silence. She had no idea. She was standing just feet away, completely unaware that in a single instant, everything had changed. I could have gotten up. I could have stormed into that bathroom, held the phone up in front of her, and demanded the truth. I could have ended it right there. But instead, I did something else, something I never thought I'd do. I reached for her phone. My fingers hovered over the screen, my heart racing. I knew her passcode. I had seen her enter it 100 times before. One swipe. That was all it would take. One swipe, and I would know everything. But before I could do it, before I could unlock the truth, the sound of the shower stopped. I jerked back, dropping the phone onto the bed like it had burned me. The door creaked open. Sarah stepped out, wrapped in a towel, her damp hair falling over her shoulders. She smiled at me, completely oblivious to the fact that I had just seen something that had shattered my world. "Hey, babe," she said casually, walking over to the dresser. "Everything okay?" I swallowed hard, forcing myself to breathe, to act normal. "Yeah," I said, my voice hoarse. "Everything's fine." But it wasn't, because that message, that one simple text, it had just changed everything. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message, counting down the days until I see you again, smirking-faced. Over and over, those words repeated in my head like a sick, twisted echo. Who sent it? How long had this been going on? Was this the first time, or had I been a fool for months? Years? I lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling while Sarah slept soundly beside me, her breath slow and steady, completely unaware that I was falling apart just inches away. By morning, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to ask her. I wasn't going to give her the chance to lie to me. I was going to find out the truth myself. So I waited for my moment. And when Sarah stepped into the shower, I took my chance. Her phone was on the nightstand, face down as always. But this time I was ready. I picked it up, my fingers trembling as I turned it over. The screen was locked. Of course, but I didn't need to unlock it. I just needed to wait. I sat there, my pulse pounding, my eyes fixed on the screen, waiting for another notification to pop up. And then, BZT. The vibration made my heart jump into my throat. I looked down. A name. One I recognized. One that made my stomach drop. My breath caught as I read the message. "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." The world blurred. A strange ringing filled my ears. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. That maybe it wasn't what it looked like. That maybe this was just some stupid misunderstanding. But I knew better. So I started digging. I grabbed my own phone and typed his name into social media. Clicked through profiles. Checked locations. Scrolled through old posts. And that's when I saw it. A picture. A harmless photo. At least, that's what it looked like at first. A group dinner. A casual night out. Except in the background, slightly blurred, barely noticeable, was Sarah. She wasn't alone. She was with him, leaning in, laughing, her hand resting just a little too comfortably on his arm. I scrolled further. More pictures. More nights out. More proof that they had been in the same places at the same times, places she never mentioned to me. And then something worse. Hotel check-ins. Credit card transactions. Dinner dates. I felt like I was going to be sick. She wasn't just texting someone. She wasn't just flirting. She was meeting him, secretly. And they had been doing this for months, right under my nose. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just some random guy. Someone she met at work, a harmless flirtation that got out of control. Or maybe it was some stranger from the gym, some guy who saw her on a treadmill one day and decided to slide into her DMs. Hell, maybe she had met someone online. That would have hurt. That would have shattered me. But at least then, I could tell myself that it was a mistake. That she had been caught up in something meaningless, something impulsive. But the second I saw the name, every thought I had about forgiving her vanished. My blood ran cold. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I might be sick. Because this wasn't some random guy. It wasn't a stranger. It was someone I knew. No, someone I trusted. Someone who had been a part of my life for years. Someone who had sat across from me at dinner, laughing at my jokes. Someone who had told me, over and over, how lucky I was to have Sarah. Someone I never would have suspected. I felt dizzy. My vision blurred as memories started flooding back. The inside jokes they shared. The moments I brushed off. The looks, the laughs, the accidental touches. The times he asked about her just a little too much. It had all been right in front of me, and I had been too blind to see it. I gripped my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Because this This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated, planned. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a knife to my back, twisted slowly. And the worst part? I still didn't know just how deep the betrayal went. I didn't explode. I didn't wake her up in the middle of the night and demand answers. No, because if she could play games, so could I. I wanted proof. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. So, for the next few days, I did something I never thought I'd do. I watched her. I studied her movements like a detective piecing together a crime scene. I paid attention to every detail. The way she glanced at her phone and smiled to herself when she thought I wasn't looking. The way she suddenly had so many late nights at work. The way she started leaving the house wearing perfume she hadn't worn in months. And the excuses? They were always perfect. Work is killing me this week. Sorry, babe, I have to stay late again. We have this huge project deadline. Don't wait up for me, okay? She said all the right things. She looked me straight in the eyes. And I almost believed her. Almost. But then came the night I finally decided to follow her. I told her I had plans with friends. I made sure she thought I'd be busy for the evening. And then I waited. I watched from the window as she got ready, doing her makeup with extra care, fixing her hair, slipping into a dress that she had never worn for me. Then she grabbed her purse, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, like everything was normal, and walked out the door. I counted to 10. Then I grabbed my keys and followed her. She didn't drive toward her office. She didn't drive toward a restaurant. She drove straight to a hotel. I parked a safe distance away, my fingers gripping the steering wheel so tightly I thought I might snap it in half. I sat there, my breath shallow, my heart pounding. And then he showed up. Not a stranger, not some random guy from work. Him, the man I had trusted, the man I had considered family, the man who had stood next to me, smiling, laughing, pretending to be my friend. I watched as he walked right up to her. No hesitation, no fear. And then he kissed her. Not a quick kiss. Not a mistake. A long, slow, familiar kiss. The kind of kiss that told me everything I needed to know. They weren't just sneaking around. They weren't just meeting in secret. This had been going on for months, right under my nose. And as I sat there in my car, gripping the wheel, forcing myself to stay in control, I made a decision. They thought they were winning. They thought they had gotten away with it. But they had no idea what was coming next. I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. Every time she kissed me, every time she said I love you, every time she looked me in the eyes and lied straight to my face, it made my stomach turn. But I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to break things. I was going to make her feel safe. And then, when she least expected it, I was going to destroy her. So I planned the perfect night. A romantic dinner. Candles flickering on the table. A bottle of her favorite wine. Soft music playing in the background. The kind of night that would make any woman swoon. And the best part? She had no idea what was coming. That night, when she walked in, her eyes widened in pleasant surprise. "Wow, this looks amazing," she said, smiling. I smiled back, pouring her a glass of wine. "The perfect husband. You deserve it," I said smoothly. "You've been working so hard lately." She nodded, taking the glass. I know. Work has been insane." I almost laughed. She was still lying, still keeping up the act. I watched as she took a slow sip, completely relaxed, completely unaware that she was about to lose everything. I let her talk. I let her dig her own grave. She rambled about her long day at the office, about how exhausted she was. She had no idea that I knew exactly where she had been. And then, I made my move. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and slid it across the table. Screen unlocked. Messages open. Her messages. Her lies. Exposed. I didn't say a word. I just watched. Watched as she glanced down and froze. Watched as the color drained from her face. Watched as her fingers trembled around the stem of her wine glass. Her breath hitched. Her eyes flicked up to mine, wide, panicked, desperate. Jake, I can explain. I leaned forward, my voice calm, controlled. Oh, please. I'd love to hear it. Her hands started shaking. She knew there was no way out. She knew I had seen everything. But then, she did something I never saw coming. She didn't cry. She didn't beg for forgiveness. She laughed. A slow, quiet, knowing laugh. And when she looked up at me, there wasn't guilt in her eyes. There was something else. Something that sent a chill down my spine. You think this is the worst of it, she murmured, tilting her head. And in that moment I realized I wasn't the only one keeping secrets. I expected anything but this. Tears, denial, begging, a pathetic attempt at an excuse, some half-baked lie about how it was a mistake, about how it didn't mean anything. But instead, she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a guilty chuckle, a real laugh. Low, amused, like I had just told the funniest joke in the world. I stared at her, my mind racing. What the hell is so funny? I asked, my voice sharp. She leaned in slightly, her lips curling into a smirk. I knew you'd find out eventually. My stomach twisted. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't scared. She was in control. She took another slow sip of wine, setting the glass down carefully before meeting my gaze again. You really thought you had the upper hand, didn't you? She whispered, tilting her head. My fists clenched under the table. What are you talking about? I demanded. She exhaled, shaking her head like she pitied me. Jake, you always think you're the smartest one in the room. I felt the first flicker of doubt crawl up my spine. What does that mean? I asked, my voice lower now. She leaned back in her chair, studying me like I was some kind of puzzle she had already solved. You really should ask him, she said smoothly. I froze. She was talking about him. The man she had betrayed me with. The man I once called my best friend. I had spent weeks uncovering her lies, collecting evidence, following her, piecing together the story of her betrayal. But now she was telling me I had only scratched the surface. I felt my breath quicken. My hands were shaking. What the hell does that mean, Sarah? I growled, but she just shrugged. Go ask him, she said simply. But be careful, Jake. You might not like what you find. I shot up from the table, my pulse hammering. I needed to know the truth. I needed to hear it from him. So I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. And when I finally confronted him, what I found out was so much worse than an affair. Because Sarah wasn't the only one keeping secrets. And when I finally learned the truth, I wished I had never found out at all. I drove like a maniac, my hands gripping the wheel, so tightly my knuckles turned white. Sarah's words echoed in my head. Go ask him. I didn't know what she meant. I didn't know if she was lying, trying to twist the knife even deeper. But the way she looked at me, that smirk, that cold, calculating confidence, she wasn't bluffing. There was something else, something I hadn't uncovered yet. And as much as I hated to admit it, I needed to know. I pulled up to his house, my so-called best friend's place, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might shatter my ribs. The second he opened the door, his expression said it all. Guilt. Shock. Fear. He knew why I was there. Jake, man, listen, he started, holding up his hands. But I wasn't in the mood for excuses. How long? My voice was calm, but inside, I was ready to tear him apart. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. Jake, it's not what you think. I lunged forward, grabbing him by the collar, slamming him against the doorframe. Don't lie to me. His eyes darted around, like he was looking for an escape. Months, he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Almost a year. My stomach dropped. A year. My best friend and my girlfriend had been sneaking around behind my back for almost a full year. But then he said something that made my blood run cold. You weren't supposed to find out. I let go of him, stepping back, my mind racing. What the hell does that mean? I demanded. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair, panic flashing in his eyes. She planned this, Jake. I froze. What? He looked away, shaking his head. She wanted you to find out. This was never about keeping it a secret. It was about what you do after. My pulse skyrocketed. This wasn't just an affair. This was a setup, and I had walked right into it. Sarah, she wasn't just cheating. She was playing a game, and I was the pawn. I had two choices. I could let them win, or I could take back control. And trust me, I did not choose the first option. What happened next will leave you speechless. My revenge? Legendary. Sarah's downfall? Icy cold. But the question remains, was this really the end? Or just the beginning? Fire want to know what happened next? Fire. Backend index pointing right, drop a comment. If you need part 2. Backend index pointing right, subscribe, so you don't miss the shocking ending. Because, trust me, this story is far from over. Smiling face with horns.